God, I'm telling you, my dogs are barking today.
But man, my dogs are barking.
Well, welcome into the My Dogs Are Barking podcast, and I believe we're on episode number 9 of our series where we are previewing each team the Mississippi State is playing throughout the 2024 season. We're almost towards the end, and this is the final non-conference game that Mississippi State has during the season as we're previewing UMass. But, if I was previewing UMass on my own, I probably would not have a lot of information. So we are bringing in a guest that we're super excited. Mike Maynard is joining us today. He's the assistant sports editor for the Collegian. That's the newspaper for UMass. Is that correct?
Correct.
Awesome, man. Well, we're so glad to have you today. And Mike is a guy from what I understand is studying. Are you like studying in journalism and kind of covering things there at UMass?
Yeah, I'm currently a sports journalism major. I'm going to be a senior this upcoming fall. So I've been there for a few years now and been covering the football team, having a great time, and it's been a lot of fun. But I'm happy to be here. I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, of course, yeah, and I mean we're excited to learn a little bit about UMass. UMass in Mississippi State's not the only SEC team. I think there are 2 other SEC teams on that schedule for UMass. Tennessee's one of them. Is Georgia the other?
It's Georgia and Missouri. Those are the 2.
Oh, in Missouri. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So you guys are really getting into the thick of it with those 2 even before you play Mississippi State. That will be a very different experience playing those 2 versus playing the Bulldogs. But just to kind of give our listeners and our viewers some background about UMass coming into this season. Is there a particular area, like what are people thinking and perceiving the expectations of this season to be?
I'd say definitely coming off of a few tough years for UMass, they're definitely looking to be on an upwards track. I believe it was 3-9 finished last year for the UMass Minutemen. Definitely looking to improve upon that, but that was the best record the team's seen since I believe either 2019 or 2018. So definitely seeming to be going in the right direction, but definitely looking to get more wins onto that win total by the end of the season. It's a tough schedule, though. You mentioned a little bit of it already, 3 SEC teams, but definitely it doesn't really stop there. There's definitely some tough games throughout the back half of the schedule mainly. So they'll definitely need to get out to an early start. But I'd say expectations win-wise would probably be around 6 would be like really you can look at that season and be like, wow, we came out and had a great season, did things what we wanted to do, and came out with a record that we can really appreciate. So I'd say around 6 wins will probably be what they're hoping for. I'm not sure how easy that will be, but it's a team that definitely has, again, been going in the right direction and really is just looking to piece everything together, hopefully, this season.
Yeah, and the team has a lot of incoming players from the transfer portal. I mean, a lot of them, not just from random places, from Wake Forest, from Miami, from Michigan, Georgia. I'm just reading off as I go. Notre Dame, like they have some guys who obviously have talent and are able to compete. And it doesn't have to be from the transfer portal specifically, but is there an area of the team that it looks at the moment is the strength of a team, like a position group or a particular player?
I would say definitely the offensive line seems to be the strongest point going into this upcoming season. It is a lot of new transfer guys. You have Braden Romy and Luke Payton seem to be your starting tackles there. Romy coming from Cal, and then Paul Chio, he's coming from Clemson and Georgia Tech. So both bounce backs from both of those schools. Now he comes to UMass. And then Josh Atwood's going to be the center for the team. He's going to be manning things down. He's been with the team for a few years now, been a captain, definitely a guy that you love having in the center of your offensive line to, call out coverages, blitz coverages, whatever you need. Definitely the offensive line seems to be the strong suit so far. Only time will tell how that plays out because obviously it is a bunch of new guys, but definitely I'd say they did a good job in the transfer portal replacing some guys that they did lose due to graduation and transfers on their last year's offensive line, and it seems like it's going to be the strong suit for the team this year.
Yeah, and if there's any place to anchor your team to know they're going to perform well, the offensive line has to be very important because the flip side of the coin is if they can't get anything going, like the quarterback has no time, running back has no time, you have no hope of getting anything going. So that's a solid place for your team to be able to lean on. And then if you look on the other side, is there a particular position group that you say, man, even if it's not a weakness, just really more so a big question mark for the team?
Yeah, I'd say, crazy enough, it's the other line. It's the defensive line. That side of the ball definitely a little bit questionable. Maybe not going to be a weakness, but obviously only time will tell. I'd say just overall, they lost Billy Wooden. Billy Wooden was one of their best players last year, and for the past couple of years, he ends up graduating, and they really just didn't seem to fill that big gap that's lost, fill those shoes. It's going to be a big rotation between a lot of guys, I believe. I don't think there's going to be a lot of guys that are starting and playing three downs every drive. So that defensive line has a lot of guys that are coming in, a lot of new guys, and a lot of younger guys that are getting an opportunity. So some of them might come out and shine and might surprise a little bit. But on paper, again, this is hard to gauge. Obviously, they haven't had time to get things going yet. But on paper, it does seem to be that might be the weakness of the team. But Coach Don Brown does have a lot of defensive scheming that he can do, dials up a lot of blitzing. So it's not really going to be too big an issue, even if those guys aren't able to fill those big shoes that were lost last year. But overall, on paper, I think the defensive line will be a little bit of a weakness. If you're rushing 4, rushing 3, you might need some guys to step up and fill some big shoes that were lost last year.
And, by the time these teams face off, it'll be November 2nd. Yeah, November 2nd. So, I mean, at this point in the season when they play, they pretty much know who they are, right? At this point, we kind of seems like whatever your record is at that point, is pretty good outlook. But let's fast forward. Let's say it is November 3rd. It's the day after the game. If the Starkville Daily News there where Mississippi State is, if it read UMass upsets Mississippi State or beats Mississippi State due to, how would you finish that sentence? Like, what would be a reason you could see UMass beating Mississippi State?
I'd definitely say they'd have to keep it low scoring. I think overall the defense is going to have to play a great game. It's obviously an SEC opponent from a team that hasn't been playing very good football over the past couple of years to their standards. And so the defense is going to have to come up big, definitely going to have to be a low scoring game. And then protecting the ball definitely is going to be huge. The team definitely lost a few games last year that you thought maybe they should have come out on top just because of turnovers on the offensive side of the ball. So definitely having Tyson Pumachan is going to come back as the team starting quarterback this year. He was injured last year, in and out. So a lot of quarterbacks were kind of coming in and getting some new time. And it was just a lot of turnover in that quarterback position. So him being there, hopefully for the entire season, will give them a little bit of a solidified quarterback conversation there. So hopefully he can help protect the ball. And then obviously the defense is going to have to come up big. But overall, it's going to be a low-scoring game if UMass is able to come out on top. I do think it's possible. Last year beat New Mexico State in week 0. And New Mexico State was obviously a great team last year. And before Tyson Pumachan got injured, a few games into the season, they looked like they were one of the better teams in college football. They were genuinely competing with every team they played against. They were playing against Auburn, went down, scored a touchdown on the first drive to take the lead, and then Tyson Pumachan goes down with an injury, and then the season kind of just gets derailed after that. So this team's definitely capable of some things. I'm sure that they're going to win some games that maybe on paper they weren't supposed to, but those games are going to be low scoring. Those games are definitely going to be based on protecting the ball and making sure that you're doing things the right way and focusing on your fundamentals. And this team isn't really built on the big play. They don't have a lot of flashy guys, a lot of big athletes that are, catching 90-yard touchdowns. This is going to be a team that kind of wears you out as the game goes on, low scoring, protect the ball, just make sure you do things the right way. And if they can do that, I think they'll be able to come out on top.
Man, and what a huge upset that would be to build on Coach Brown's resume there and legacy, and also kind of momentum going forward would just be so huge. Being able to get a win. On the opposite side of that, if we were to look in the paper and see that Mississippi State beats UMass, is there any kind of glaring things you see right now and go, okay, I could see how this would happen because?
Yeah, I definitely think, kind of as I just said, turning over the ball would definitely not be a good thing for UMass. If they do turn over the ball a good amount, that could get them in trouble. I do think also just getting off to a slow start. The UMass Minutemen get off to a good start a good amount of the time, at least last year, showed that a lot. And when they did, they were able to run the ball, control the clock and not necessarily have to go into that drop back passing game, which isn't really their strong suit. So if they get down early, I could see Mississippi State really kind of running things up and creating problems for that UMass offense that isn't necessarily great when it comes to coming back from down a big deficit. So if they can keep that scoring low, they'll have a chance. But if the scoring can get out of hand at the beginning, if Mississippi State can, get a stop here, get an interception on defense, and then score a couple times, UMass is going to definitely be in trouble. It's going to be a tough game to come back, and definitely a tough team to come back against. Obviously, we mentioned that would be a big upset if they were able to come out on top. But I definitely think that if they're not able to control the ball and they're not able to run their game, run their offense, running, play action, jet sweeps, bootlegs, everything like that, if that's not part of their offense, if that's not part of the game because they're down, it's going to be tough for them to win.
And lastly, as I mentioned to you before we started here, a lot of the times at this point in the season, teams are really thinking about themselves. What's the depth chart looking like? Is everybody healthy? And not really thinking a lot about what the opponent's going to look like or the opponent's fan base. And so these kind of things are always really helpful for me just to learn a little bit about the school. And so if you were to say, like, what is it that makes up the UMass alumni? Like what type of people are UMass alumni? And then secondly, like what's a Saturday like there? I do remember Mississippi State a couple years ago, 2016, played UMass, but it was in Gillette Stadium. So obviously kind of a different format there. But yeah, what's it like? Like who are the type of people that are UMass alumni? And then, man, what's a Saturday like up there?
Yeah, the UMass alumni definitely love to have a great time. The parking lot, you'll see tailgating as far as the eye can see. Definitely will be a lot of people showing up and getting excited for the game. Now, the team, as I mentioned, hasn't been performing up to their standards as of late, so you're not going to see a packed stadium most Saturdays. It's not going to be fully loud and all that. But the people that are in there, the people are going to be in there because they're passionate fans. They're going to be there. They're going to be cheering for their team. Got one of the best bands in college football, I have to say. I mean, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but I do know the UMass marching band is going to be in the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade next year. You don't get picked for that if you're not pretty good. So great band, pretty lively stuff going on outside the stadium before the games. They have great walk-up, whole presentation. The band does a whole thing. It's a great time on Saturdays. It's a great place to be, especially in the fall with that beautiful fall weather. You can look over the stands and see the trees, all that foliage, beautiful orange, red, yellow. It's a great place to be. It really, the fans that come are really passionate. They're really rooting for their team. It's a fun place to be. Obviously, won't be playing in Amherst, Massachusetts in this game, but it's a good fan base. They cheer for their team. They're just really hoping to get things back on track because ever since joining the FBS, it's really not gone according to plan necessarily. But now there's some newfound hope. The team's joining the MAC next year, not this coming year, but the one after. So that brings some excitement around the football program. A lot of new transfers this year, and hopefully able to stay healthy and compete at a high level, game in and game out. So definitely you could see an uptick in those fans' passion in a good season if they can come away with a good winning season. So it should be fun to watch. Only time will tell, but hopefully they're able to come out and have a good game against Mississippi State at least.